Dobby's gonna die.
Yeah, Dobby's going to bite it.
Wait,
Okay.
Dobby's gonna what?
Chapter 11. Let's see, is there anything I need here? Yeah, chapter 11, the bribe. Somewhere around page 236, 237. No, take that back. 201 plus 30. Somewhere around page 208, 209. Lupin is talking with Harry, Ron, and Hermione. They're at number 12 Grimmauld Place. And they pull out the newspaper. And Lupin tells them, naturally, many people have deduced what has happened. There's been such a dramatic change in ministry policy the last few days, blah, 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 blah. They daren't confide in each other, not knowing whom to trust. They're scared to speak out in case their suspicions are true and their families are targeted. Okay? And Harry says, so in this dramatic change, it involves, warning the wizarding world against me instead of Voldemort. Lupin, it's certainly part of it. Now that Dumbledore is dead, you, the boy who lived, were sure to be a symbol and rallying point for any resistance to Voldemort. But by suggesting that you had a hand in the old hero's death, Voldemort has not only set a price upon your head, but sown doubt and fear amongst many who would have defended you. Okay, now notice that. He's sown doubt and fear among many who have defended you. How does that relate with what we've been reading so far about what is going on in Harry's mind? What is Harry thinking and feeling about Dumbledore? Doubt. And fear that he ever really knew him. Okay? So it's not that big of a stretch to understand what the wizarding world in general is feeling. Okay? So they go on and they start to talk about what the ministry is doing against the Muggle-borns. And they talk about the Muggles-born register and such. And Ron says, but people won't let this happen. Lupin, it is happening, Ron. Muggle-borns are being rounded up as we speak. Why does Ron think people won't let this happen? Okay, because it's not right. Why else? Because he's naive? Because he lives in...
Well, I mean...
Well, duh. Because he lives in a fantasy world? Okay, no pun intended. Yeah. Because what has Ron not lived through? Wars. He didn't live through the previous incarnation of Voldemort. It's not really gotten into his brain what it's like. Should it have? Yeah. I mean, what did we see in book 6? Emmeline Vance, Susan Bones, a variety of others. Okay. That's, that quote I put up that's attributed to Edmund Burke. All that is necessary for evil to thrive is for good men to do nothing. Okay? This is how the real world is. You need an example. Look at Nazi Germany. Not all the Germans who lived in Nazi Germany were bad people. Many of them did not like what Hitler was doing, but they didn't stand up. Many of the people who lived in Soviet Russia, Stalinist Russia, didn't like Soviets, didn't like the Communist Party, etc. But they didn't do anything about it. Okay? So, they continue talking, and Lupin says, now it's compulsory to attend Hogwarts for every young witch and wizard. Why? Before it was optional.
Because that way they can keep tabs on them.
That way they can keep tabs on them and
They've got them in one place.
keep going.
Hold them for their
humans.
Okay, what else?
Teach them what they want them to learn.
Teach them what they want them to know. Okay. They can instill what knowledge they want them to have. We would use another term for it today. We would call it brainwashing. Okay. This is a little indication of why I would have a difficulty. It's my own conspiracy mentality. Why I would have a difficulty if the government required not just K through 12 education, but then started backing it up. 4-year-old preschool, 3-year-old preschool, 2-year-old preschool. Because what would that do? Less time spent with us, more time spent with the government. And frankly, that's scary. Okay? So we're told Harry felt sickened and angry. At this moment, excited 11-year-olds would be poring over stacks of newly purchased spellbooks, unaware that they would perhaps never see their families again either. Okay? So they keep talking, and Lupin asks, "What's your mission?" I know Dumbledore gave you something, but what's your mission? Harry, sorry, Remus, I can't. I can't tell you. Yeah, I thought you'd say that. Okay, so they keep talking, and then Hermione says, well, what about Tonks? Well, what about her? You're married. How does she feel about you going with us? Oh, Tonks will be safe. She'll be in her... Remus, is everything okay? Everything's fine, thank you. And notice how he says it. Everything is fine, thank you, said Lupin pointedly. Hermione turns pink. Tonks is going to have a baby. Hermione, oh, excellent, says Ron. Congratulations, says Harry. So Lupin, do you accept my offer? Well, what was his offer? Let me help you. Let me stay with you. Harry, pause here. So you want to leave Tonks with her parents and come away with us? She'll be safe there. They'll look after her. Harry, I'm sure James would have went, I'm not. I don't think my dad would have wanted you to come with me. I'm pretty sure my father would have wanted to know why you aren't sticking with your own kid, actually. Lupin's face drained of color. Temperature in the kitchen might have dropped 10 degrees. Ron stares around the room like he'd been bidden to memorize it. Why? You ever been in one of these situations where all of a sudden you get the feeling two people are about to kill each other and you'd really rather not be there? Lupin, you don't understand. Explain. I made a grave mistake in marrying Tonks. Okay. What should Harry say at this point? I mean, if I were writing this, I would say exactly that. Okay. Say it again.
Too late.
Too late. You don't get a do-over. Okay. Harry, okay, so I see. So you're just going to dump her and the kid and run off with us? That's it? You made a mistake, you knocked her up, and now you're going to leave her? Lupin springs to his feet. Don't you understand what I've done to my wife and my unborn child? I should never have married her. I've made her an outcast. Kicks the chair. Why? Frustrated?
Doesn't want to keep you.
He's pissed off. He's not frustrated. Frustrated means, He's angry. Okay? You've only ever seen me amongst the Order or under Dumbledore's protection at Hogwarts. Which means what? You've seen me around people who love me and trust me. You've not seen, thank you. You've not seen how the rest of the world thinks of me. Okay? Even her own family is disgusted by her marriage. Really? What parents want their only daughter to marry a werewolf? And the child, what will he be? It's almost like Rowling is saying that Lupin is suggesting, and here's a case for abortion. Okay? He seizes handfuls of his own hair. My kind don't usually, what word does he use? Breed. We speak of animals breeding. We speak of humans, unless you're Ashley Judd, procreating, having children. Okay? If you didn't catch the Ashley Judd allusion, Google it. Just look up Ashley Judd and breeding. My kind don't usually breed. It will be like me. Not he or she. It. I'm convinced of it. How can I forgive myself when I knowingly risk passing on my own condition to an innocent child? Hermione, Remus, don't say that. That the child will be ashamed of his father. Harry has a lot of rage. Harry, if the new regime thinks Muggleborns are bad, what will they do to a half-werewolf whose father's in the Order? What is he suggesting there? What if the new regime continues? What if 15, 20 years go by? What's the new regime going to do to a half-werewolf? What is he suggesting? You better get your butt back home and raise that child right, and defend and protect and love that child. My father died trying to protect my mother and me. And you reckon he'd tell you to abandon your kid to go on an adventure with us? How dare you? This is not about a desire for danger or personal glory. How dare you? I think you're feeling a bit of a daredevil. You fancy stepping into Sirius's shoes. Oh, you want to be my goddaddy now. Hermione, Harry, no. What does Hermione mean by that? You went too far, Harry. Did he?
No.
Did Harry go too far? Yes or no?
No.
Who says yes? Anybody? Come on, be brave. Nobody? Okay. Why not?
He got him to go back.
He got him to go back. That's the point. What does Harry not want to happen?
The same thing that happened to him.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't want little unknown Lupin to grow up without a father. Jump to the end of the novel. Little Teddy Lupin doesn't have a father. Harry, I'd never have believed this. The man who taught me to fight Dementors, a coward. Lupin draws his wand so fast, hits Harry. Notice, what does that tell us?
It's really cool.
Don't mess around with Lupin. He is a fully qualified adult wizard, okay? And so Lupin leaves. Why did Harry call him a coward? Is he a coward? By any definition of the word, is Remus John Lupin?
In this situation,
How?
he won't face what frightens him.
He won't face what frightens him? What is Harry saying by calling Lupin a coward? What is Harry saying is a real hero? Or a real man? It's not enough to simply impregnate somebody, but it's to then be there every way. To be there through the pregnancy, to be there when the child is born, etc. He wants Lupin to shoulder the responsibility he took when I do. When he said those words. Did you notice, by the way, back at the wedding of Fleur and Bill, the only part of the vows that are included? Go back for just a brief moment. It's on or around page 143 or so. Do you, William Arthur, Isabel? Then there's a break. Then I declare you bonded for life. Well, what is bond? Bound, tied together. The ball and chain image. Okay. Fleur is his chain. He is her ball and chain. Okay. The bonds of wedded matrimony. And notice, it's for as long as we're both feeling love for each other. And if we're no longer feeling love for each other, we'll each go off on our own separate way. No, none of that. Bonded for life. Well, Harry heard that. This is his reminder to Lupin. Okay? Don't be a coward. So, Lupin leaves. And Hermione says, Harry, how could you? Easy. Don't look at me like that, he snaps at Hermione. Ron, don't you start on her. Okay? Listen, fight, says Hermione. Notice, when Harry says to Hermione, it was easy, and he stands up, Ron, when Hermione says, don't you look at me like that, Ron says, don't you start on her, what's Ron doing? Coming to the defense of the little lady. Like Hermione, some, shrinking violet. You shouldn't have said that stuff to Lupin. He had it coming. Notice why he had it coming. Look at what comes immediately after that. Harry has these images racing through it. Sirius falling through the veil. Dumbledore suspended, broken in midair. A flash of green light and his mother's voice. Mercy. Parents shouldn't leave their kids. Unless they've got to. And notice what that kind of implies by Harry saying parents shouldn't leave their kids. After the images we've seen, he looked at Dumbledore as a parent. He looked at Sirius as a parent. Why? What does parent mean? Anybody know? It doesn't mean producer of children. Parent means to guide, to direct, to instruct, to show how to live. Well, in that sense, yeah, Harry's parents have died. And more are going to die. Because Remus is going to die. Okay? Hagrid is a parent of sorts. Kind of scary. McGonagall is a parent of sorts. Snape is a parent of sorts. Do you think some of the lessons Harry has are lessons? Some of the lessons Snape has are lessons Harry should learn? Yeah, that whole thing about not wearing your heart on your sleeve, it's pretty important if you want to succeed in life. But what else is happening here? I think this is J.K. Rowling saying to her mother, before she published her first book, parents shouldn't leave unless they have to. Well, what does that mean, unless they have to? Unless death comes and takes them away, parents shouldn't leave. Okay? And he says he shouldn't have called him a coward, but he's acting like one. Hermione, all the same, I know. But if it makes him go back to Tonks, it'll be worth it. Okay? So then we see the big, long extract by Rita Skeeter about the upcoming biography of Dumbledore. And Creature comes back, and they find out where the locket is. Chapter 12, Magic is Might.
Has Hermione lost her hold over Rita Skeeter?
By this point? Yeah, I think so, because, Rita Skeeter is already in book 6. She's already writing things. We don't know why. No, Rita Skeeter's still in her power in book 5.
No, but I think it was for like, but book 5, you know, she was kind of working for Hermione. It was after that when she went rogue. I'm pretty sure, like at the end of book 4, Hermione said something about like a deal being for a year or something.
I don't remember
that's
that.
Right. Like I'll release her in October or something.
Okay.
Along those lines.
That I don't remember. I'd have to. Okay, so come up with the idea of doing what? Well, let's break into the Ministry of Magic. You know, let's go to the throne itself, essentially. So, we're going to skip a bunch. They come up with the idea of doing the Polyjuice potion. And Harry has some visions. And he sees Voldemort meet Grigorovich, or look for Grigorovich, somewhere around page 231, 232. And we hear the woman speak in German, er wird hier nicht mehr. That is, he's not here, he's not here. Das weiß ich nicht, I do not know, that's what that means. Okay. And what does Voldemort do? Kills her! Doesn't need to, but he does. Okay? And here he tells Ron and Hermione, I saw Voldemort murdering a woman. He's probably killed her old family. He didn't need to. And Hermione goes, Harry, practice your occlumency, you know. And he goes on and talks about how Voldemort has Ollivander. And we're going to skip a bunch more. They get into the Ministry of Magic. And this is only really Harry's second time after the events of the previous time that he was there. And what does he see? They go into the atrium and where... Yes?
Okay, a question about Voldemort. I know most of the time he's kind of classified as more of a psychopath. But I was thinking, like, since his goals are more, like, political and social in nature, would it be more accurate to classify him as a terrorist? Because, I mean, he's part
Well,
of...
if you think you have to classify him, I don't think you have to classify him. I mean, what are his ultimate goals? His ultimate goals.
To remove muggles and muggleborns.
Say it again, Eric.
To avoid death.
To avoid death. And power. It's all power. He wants power over everything. He wants power over life. He wants power over death. He wants power over witches and wizards. He wants power over muggles. Okay? Megalomaniac? Yeah. I wouldn't really call him a psychopath, if anything. I'd call him a sociopath. Okay? Pretty much everybody else. That's why Dumbledore says he doesn't really have any friends. He has people who are subservient to him. Does he use terrorism? Yeah, definitely. Okay. So they make their way in. Previously, there had been the statue of, you know, the witch and the wizard and the centaur and the goblin, etc. Now what do we see? A gigantic statue of black stone. This is page 198 in the British one. 238, 240, something like that in the American one. A gigantic statue of black stone dominated the scene. Rather frightening. Okay. In it you see a wizard sitting on ornately carved thrones. And in foot-high letters at the base of the statue, magic is might. What does that mean? Magic is power. And if you have power, use it. And then when they get up closer, what do they see are the actual thrones.
Muggles.
They're not thrones. They're muggles. Showing what?
Their proper place.
Their proper place is as the resting place for witches and wizards. Muggles should be beneath witches and wizards. Therefore, witches and wizards ought to rule, ought to be in control.
Kind of might versus right.
Might makes right,
Right.
is what it is. makes right. There is no such thing as good and evil, Harry, says Quirrell. There is only power. Those too weak to seek it. So the wizarding world needs to do what?
Seek power.
Needs to be strong enough to seek power. And we could jump straight from there to Dumbledore's letter to Gellert Grindelwald that we'll see later on in the novel. Okay? So they go through. We see the Muggle-born Registration Commission, and it, like within the first or second page, Harry sees Pious Thickness, and in the very next paragraph, we're told panic pulsed in the pit of his stomach. This is Harry's stomach. He passed gleaming wooden door after gleaming wooden door, each bearing the owner's name and occupation upon it. And then the narrator tells us the might of the ministry, its complexity, its impenetrability. What does all that mean? The sheer bureaucracy of the Ministry of Magic. It's government in all its manifestations. Why is it, the government has 30 or 40 different programs, for helping people find a job. Not one program, but 30 or 40 different ones.
Department of Redundancy Department?
Yeah, it's the redundant Department of Redundancy. You just keep going through. So why is it you can never get a straight answer from the government? Because it depends on talking to. Okay? The bombing in Boston the other day, I was talking about this with my family. The FBI knew about these guys beforehand. They were on a watch list. Or let me rephrase that. Department of Homeland Security knew about them. But the Department of Homeland Security wasn't talking to the FBI. You know why we have a Department of Homeland Security?
To make our homeland secure.
Because after 2001, Congress said, we need a central overarching bureaucracy that all the intelligence agencies are talking to each other. Instead of cutting out the middleman, what did they do? They made another middleman. And they're still not talking to each other. The elder brother was on a no-fly watch list. He should not have been able to board a plane in 2012 and fly off to Russia for 6 months. You know why he wasn't caught? His name was misspelled. It'd be like if I'm a terrorist and my name was spelled Shurnam rather than Sherman. And the brainiacs can't figure out that. There's not a little bit of software that says, stop, Tsarnaev, Tsarn-E-F. Oh, same person. How idiotic. This is why, okay? So, what does Harry see? He sees people working and they're like robots, all right? And he reads a binder that says mudbloods and the dangers they pose to a peaceful, pure-blood society, etc. He goes into Umbridge's office. And what does he see?
Yeah.
He sees Moody's eye. Okay? He looks at Arthur Weasley's file, etc., etc. He takes the eye, and we're going to skip a whole bunch. They go to the commission, they free Reg Cattermole and Mrs. Cattermole, etc. And we get to chapter 14. Ron's been splinched, and they kind of skip a bunch here. Where do I want to go? Harry pulls out Mad Eye's eye. And Hermione's walking around their campground, issuing, all of these hexes and protections. Okay? Harry gets ready to name Voldemort, and Ron says, don't say the name. Or Hermione starts to say his name. Ron, don't say his name. Can't we just call him you-know-who? Harry, Dumbledore said, in case you haven't noticed, mate, calling you-know-who by his name didn't do Dumbledore much good in the end. Just show him some respect. Is Ron right or wrong? And I don't mean because of the stupid jinx on Voldemort's name. I mean morally. Is Ron right or wrong? Should Voldemort be shown some respect? No. Yes. Okay, fight it out. Why not?
Well, I mean, you can have respect for someone without agreeing. You can have like a respect of what they can do to you,
Okay.
as opposed to what they can do for you. I mean, if you
Should you show somebody who's pointing a gun at your face respect?
You said morally.
Yeah, because if you don't, you're gonna get shot.
Okay.
You said morally, and it's like Dumbledore said, fear of the name increases fear of the thing itself. So when you don't stand up to someone in such a little way, how can you expect to stand up to them when it really counts?
Okay. But what is respect?
it's kind of, well, the way I see it, like, if Voldemort was real, the way I would respect him is I would absolutely acknowledge what he can do. You know, I would probably say the name, but I wouldn't act like this was just some little thing that was going to blow over.
Should Bin Laden have been shown some respect? I don't mean, when the seals burst in, should they say, oh, Mr. Bin Laden, can we kill you now?
I think that respect is a form of trust, and, it's kind of not exactly trust, but it's similar to it in that it has to be something that, I don't know how to say it.
Harry tell Scrimgeour. Scrimgeour says you need to learn respect.
You have to earn it.
Harry says you must earn it. You earn respect. Is it only by doing good? Should Hitler have received some respect? Yes, in this sense. He was capable of much. Okay? And I think it's in that sense that Ron is talking. Suggesting, cut the guy some slack. Why? Because he's dangerous. Because he's dangerous. Ron's not saying bow down before him by any means. Okay? Listen to what Harry says. Respect. But notice, Hermione shoots him a warning look and he shuts up. Hermione's kind of going, Harry, don't go there. Because apparently what's going on with Ron? He's kind of standing up more for himself here, getting ready to argue. Okay? So, they start talking about what happened to the Catermoles and such. And Ron says, you got it? When Harry's, thing about the locket. And Hermione pulls the locket out and shows it. Passes it to Harry. He turns it over in his fingers. He looks at it. And he says, we're going to have to figure out how to destroy it. Sudden awareness is, somewhere around 276, 276. After all their efforts to find it, he felt a violent urge to fling the locket from him. Mastering himself. Okay? He tried to prise the locket open. Two major issues in this book are, one, doubt. His doubt of Dumbledore. And two, which we started talking about earlier with book 5, self-control. Okay? So when he starts dealing with the issue of doubt, he also has to deal with that issue of self-control. Well, when we first started talking about it, where did we initially see it? He sees Dudley. What does he do? He torments Dudley. And as Dudley gets angry and angrier, how does Harry feel? Oh, this feels good. His anger, his lack of self-control onto Dudley. And then as the book goes on, he starts to control himself more. Book 6, he loses some of that. Well, in book 7, he does learn that he has to master. This is part of occlumency. Learning to control yourself. It's why Snape says to not wear your heart on your sleeve, to not be merely a channel for all of your emotions, but to be able to cut that off. That's this. That's controlling the self. It's controlling what gets known about you. Okay? And Ron, can you feel it? What do you mean? And they, like they know it's evil. Okay? Harry's thinking about, there are other Horcruxes out there. Next page. But he did not have the faintest idea where they could be. Did not even know what all of them were. Meanwhile, he's at a loss to know how to destroy the only one they'd found. It lay so cold against his skin, it might just have emerged from icy water. So what's he thinking about? There's a bunch more Horcruxes. I don't even know what all of them are. Despair. Doubt. How am I going to find them? Nameless forebodings crept up on him. Neither can live while the other survives. And he keeps thinking, don't stop, don't think that, don't think that. And now his scar starts to prickle. And then it starts to burn. And he thinks, why hadn't Dumbledore explained more? Why didn't he tell me? Had he thought there would be time, that he would live for years? And Dumbledore had fallen. And he's back into Voldemort's mind. Give it to me, Grigorovich. I do not have it yet. And what do we see? There on the window ledge, sat perched like a giant bird, a young man with golden hair. And plops out. Okay? And Hermione says, you were looking into his mind again. I know. So Harry says he found Grigorovich. He killed him. He killed Grigorovich. But he read his mind first. And Ron, what's you know who doing? Ron sees this could be useful. If Harry can see what Voldemort's thinking, figure out what he's doing. He had Grigorovich. He had him tied up. Harry, it has something to do with him. I don't know what. Okay? He hasn't figured it out. Chapter 15, the Goblin's Revenge. Okay? Notice how the chapter begins. Describe the relationship of the three. They're just getting along wonderfully, aren't they? Out camping on the countryside, visiting Britain in the beautiful weather. No. Ron and Harry are snapping at each other. Harry can't make a Patronus. He doesn't know why. Hermione says, give me that locket. And as soon as she takes the locket, the moment it parted contact with Harry's skin, he felt free and oddly light. Okay? Better? Hermione asked. Yeah, loads. Maybe we shouldn't wear it. Maybe we should just keep it in the tent. Harry, we're not leaving it lying around. Okay? So, they get some eggs and bread from a lonely farm. Hermione's like, I didn't steal. I left money. Okay? And notice what happens. Okay, now, they haven't had a real meal for a long time. And we're told This was their first encounter with the fact that a full stomach meant good spirits, an empty stomach, bickering and gloom. Why does Rowling tell us that? Okay, because she knows what it's like. Okay, keep going though. Why is this important? Why does full stomach mean void spirits, and an empty stomach mean gloom? What is she suggesting? Okay, there's a connection between body and soul. It's not that they're totally separate. Feed and take care of this, and what happens to this? It's healthier. Okay? Vice versa. Feed and take care of this, and the body is healthier. You need an example? Look at Volk. What's he done to his soul? He split it. So what do we see in his body? It's mutated. Okay? Keaton?
I was going to say, like, you think that's why Tolkien also puts so much emphasis on food?
Yeah, to some
like,
extent.
It comforts him to think about food and stuff, like when Bilbo's off in the Goblin Cave and stuff like that.
When Sam, when they're there at, Ithilien,
and Limbus.
and Sam looks at Frodo and he sees he's thin and everything, he's like, I need to cook him something. Nothing like conies and taters, and stuff like that. Why? Because Sam understands when you're getting thin and tired and hungry, what happens to your attitude? You pull an all-nighter before an exam. Are you going to necessarily feel great the next day? Pull an all-nighter before paper is due. Right? You're going to sit there and be doing this. Believe me, I see, Ashley's. She's always. Rowling understands that. She wants her readers to understand that. Okay? That the two are inextricably linked. So, we're told, Harry's the least surprised by this. Why? Because even though Ron's poor, for the most part, what is Mrs. Weasley able to do?
Keep them well.
She still feeds them well. Does she conjure food out of nowhere? No. She has basic staple elements. Okay. Hermione's parents are dentists. What does that mean? Look at most English teeth and you think they never go to them. It means they're rich. Harry? He's used to being hungry. He's been hungry most of his life. He can get by with little bits of food. Okay? So, Ron.
Is that comparison also maybe about the Horcrux too? Kind of starving for information, anything they can grasp on to, and now that they finally have at least that little thing.
Could be. Do you mean the Horcrux is starving for information, or they are?
They are.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean their body is starving for food.
Mm-hmm.
Their souls are starving because what do they lack? Parent. They lack direction. Mm-hmm. Okay? So they're trying to find it. So they keep arguing back and forth. I'm going to skip a bunch. Harry hears a noise, and he overhears a conversation going on, and they're goblins. And they hear Griphook talking, and they hear Ted Tonks spocking. I have no idea where that came from. Speaking and talking, I guess. Or teaking and spocking. They hear Ted Tonks speaking, and then Dean Thomas. Okay. And Dirk finally asks Ted Tonks, didn't you hear about that, Ted? About the kids who tried to steal Gryffindor's sword out of Snape's office? You got to imagine Harry, Ron, and Hermione's ears, suddenly perk up. Never heard a word. Not in the Prophet, was it? Hardly. Griphook here told me. Heard it from Bill Weasley. One of the kids tried to take was Bill's youngest sister. Ron's thinking, oh no, poor Ginny. Harry's thinking, oh no, poor Ginny. And Hermione's thinking, Ginny, we hope. She and a couple of friends got into Snape's office, smashed open the glass case. Snape caught them. God bless them. What did they think? They'd be able to use the sword on you and Snape himself, So what does Snape do? Oh, they were punished. Cruelly, says Griphook. How?
They were sent to the Forbidden Forest.
Yeah, they were sent to the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid.
Oh no.
But they had a terrible time.
Yeah, that's not detention. That's playtime. Okay? Because what could Snape have done?
Punished them.
Oh, all kinds of things.
Well, he's fulfilling his promise to Dumbledore and protecting them.
Sure.
He has to make it seem like it's more dangerous.
Exactly.
And
So-
would that actually be in the Prophet? A couple of kids broke into an office? I feel like that shouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, I know. So, they go on and they talk about, Ted Tonks and Dirk and Lee Jordan said, talk about Harry. Dean, I know Harry Potter. I reckon he's the real thing, the chosen one, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, there's a lot that would like to believe that, son, but where is he? Run for it, I think. In other words, Dirk is saying, if he's not guilty of Dumbledore's murder, why doesn't he stand up? Why doesn't he show himself? Okay? And so they start to talk about the Quibbler. And what do we find out? What's the Quibbler doing these days? Publishing real stuff. Okay? We're going to skip a bunch. And Hermione, after they stop, Hermione pulls Phineas Nigellus out of her bag. She's like, channeling Mary Poppins with this bag. Okay? And that's when they find out that Snape sent Neville, Ginny, and Luna into the Forbidden Forest. Okay? He says, Professor Snape sent them into the Forbidden Forest to do some work for the oaf, Hagrid. Hagrid's not an oaf. Snape might have thought that was a punishment, said Harry, but Ginny, Neville, and Luna probably had a good laugh. So what should that mean?
Snape,
I don't know,
obviously.
Snape's kind of slow or something else going on.
Yeah, like Snape's stupid? Has Snape ever shown himself to be stupid? No. Okay? So they're clueless to how to interpret that. Keep in mind, Harry knows how to interpret what Dudley did. Why doesn't he interpret this? Okay? So, Phineas Nigellus tells them about Muggleborns and goblins and things like that, and how the sword they tried to steal wasn't the real sword. And finally, Hermione and Harry figure it out. The sword, Gryffindor's sword, can destroy Horcruxes. Goblin-made blades imbibe only that which strengthens them. Harry, that sword's impregnated with basilisk venom, which means if they get the sword, any Horcrux they have can be destroyed with it, because it imbibed the basilisk venom from the diary. Okay? And Ron's had enough. He's fed up. Oh, remembered me, have you? What? You two? No, go ahead. You're figuring it all out on your own. Harry, what's the problem? Problem? No problem. Not according to you. Harry, well, you've got a problem, so spit it out. Ron looked mean, unlike himself. All right, I'll spit it out. Don't expect me to skip up and down the tent because there's some other damn thing we've got. Because what do they already have to find? Horcruxes. Now it's Horcruxes and a sword. Just add it to the list of stuff you... I don't know. Starting to rain harder. I'm having the time of my life here. You know, my arm mangled, nothing to eat, freezing my backside off. Hermione, Ron. Harry, I thought you knew what you'd signed up for. Yeah, I thought I did too. What does Harry mean by that? What did they sign up for? Did they literally, have a sheet of paper? I, Ronald Bilius Weasley, sign up to search for Horcruxes? Horcruxes? And when we stop searching for Horcruxes, I leave? No. They signed up to help Harry. Ron, yeah, I thought I did. In other words, when I agreed to come with you, I was under a false impression. Harry, so what part to your expectations? You think we'd be staying in 5-star hotels, finding a Horcrux every other day? Think you'd be back to Mummy by Christmas? And you have to imagine, even though she doesn't say it, Hermione's going, Harry, we thought you knew what you were doing. We thought Dumbledore had told you what. We thought you had a real plan. Okay, now imagine what this does to Harry's thinking. What's going on in Harry's mind throughout the book? Doubt. I don't know what I'm doing. Dumbledore never told me everything. And now Ron has to go and spit that back in his face. You don't know what you're doing. I know I don't know what I'm doing. You don't need to. Okay? Harry, sorry to let you down, but I've been straight with you from the start. I told you everything Dumbledore told me. In case you haven't noticed, we found one. And we're about as near getting rid of it as we are to finding the rest of them. Nowhere effing near, in other words. Effing. She just wrote, create a new word. E-F-F-I-N-G. Okay? Why? Because she doesn't want to say fucking in the novel. That's what it means. Take the locket off, Ron. Because as soon as Ron swears, Hermione's like, okay, that's it. Too much for the little children's ears. Take it off. Please take it off. You wouldn't be talking like this, meaning you wouldn't be swearing. Bad boy. Now I'm going to have to spank you. And Ron's going, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. You wouldn't be talking like this if you hadn't been wearing it all day. Harry. Woo! Is it a cat fight? What's Harry realize? It's not the locket talking. This really is wrong. This is the bilious, the bile rising in. Okay? Bile is another word in the Middle Ages for anger. Uncontrollable anger. Okay? So, Harry looks at Ron. Why are you still here? Search me, then go home. Maybe I will. You don't care. What about the rest of my family? Did you hear that? Yeah. Not bothered what it... Hermione, Ron, Harry knows what it means. He's just blah, blah, blah. Okay. I mean, your parents are safely out of the way, Ron says. Safely out of the way. Well, how are Harry's parents safely out of the way? My parents are dead. How are Hermione's parents safely out?
In Australia.
And?
Libya.
Think about that. Hermione went to her parents and obliviated their memories of her. Now think about the morality of that. What has she just taken from them? Free will? That means her parents cannot come to her defense because they don't even know she exists. And that's moral? You're able to do that? Do we find out at the end of the 19 years later, does she go back and flip, give their memories back?
She says at the beginning that she'd go back and do it.
Okay, she says that at the beginning.
It's kind of like Erwin, like it's like more respectful to like not be remembered for the great things you did.
I mean, Isn't that really horrible? Take somebody's memories away to tell them, no, I'm doing this to protect you, rather than them being able to say, no. If it means we die, then we die. Hermione's playing God there. Okay? So, okay, fine. Are you staying or what? Ron asked Hermione. I'm staying, Ron. We said we'd go with Harry. We said we'd help. I get it. You choose him. No, Ron, please come back. What does Ron mean? Kind of.
Yeah.
He's jealous. Well, in the grand scheme of things, who's more important? Ronald Bilius Weasley or the chosen one? Sorry, Ron. You're screwed on this one. Okay? So Godric's. Ron's gone. Harry's thinking he's gone. He's gone. He actually left. He's gone. He's not coming back. And what are we told? About 3 pages in, this is somewhere around 313 or so, 314, the paragraph that begins, he could not hide it from himself. 313. Ron had been right. Dumbledore had left him with virtually nothing.
I don't know what happened.
They discovered one Horcrux. They had no means of destroying it. The others were as unattainable as they had ever been. Hopelessness threatened to engulf him. Has it engulfed him yet? No. But it's kind of hovering out there, getting ready like one of those big old sandstorms that just swallows the city to completely rush over Harry. He was staggered now to think of his own presumption in accepting his friend's offers to accompany him on his meandering, pointless journey. Notice, meandering. What does that mean?
Pointless wandering.
No destination. That's what it means. He's just walking. Pointless means it has no, which not only means destination, it also means purpose. He knew nothing. He had no idea. Constantly, painfully on the alert for any indication that Hermione was going to up and leave too. Okay? And so they start to talk. And Harry says, Hermione, I've been thinking. And she's like, hey, look at this, Harry. I never took it. She goes, look at this. And what does she show him? We need to go to Godric's Hollow. And she's like, yeah, I think so too. What? The sword, Harry. Godric's Hollow is Godric Gryffindor's birthplace. We've talked about Gryffindor's name, right? Gryffindor. What's the first name? Anybody know what it means? This, the reach, is the same word as in German, Reich, like the Third Reich, the Third Kingdom. Okay.
Kingdom of God.
Rich, exactly. Rich also is the word that you see in words like bishopric. The bishop holds sway. Goldrick. Okay. It's God's kingdom. And yet, what is the place called? Godric's Hollow. What's a hollow? Or in Tennessee, it's a little valley. The King of God's Hollow. What does that mean? It means he's got the whole world in his hands, if you're familiar. Everything here kind of contained. All right? This is going to be important, Godric's Hollow, in the time we get to the end of the novel. So, they start talking about Godric's Hollow. Hermione quotes from him from Bathilda Bagshot's, blah, 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 blah. And Hermione's thinking, what if Batilda's got the sword? And so what do? They approach Hollow. Okay. They get there. It's nighttime. There's snow all over. And what do they see? They see Christmas lights all over. And Hermione says around page 321, Harry, I think it's Christmas Eve. 323. Harry, I think it's Eve. Is it? Lost track of the date. I'm sure it is. Her eyes are on the church. And she says that they'll be in there, won't they? Who's the they she's talking about?
The villagers.
The villagers? Okay. No. Your mom and dad. I can see the graveyard behind it. Notice what she's saying. Here's the little church. Here's the doorway. And behind the church, she sees or thinks the graveyard. They'll be in there looking through the church into the graveyard. Why would Harry's mom and dad be in a Christian graveyard?
Because they're Christians.
In English tradition, the only people who could be buried in a Christian grave are the Christian members of that parish. Okay?
But we already knew they were Christian
Because Sirius is Harry's godfather. Harry feels a thrill of something, he's not sure what. And they make their way across the square, and Hermione stops dead. Harry, look! And they look at the war memorial. Now, that there's a war memorial in the county square, or in the square of the town, is not significant. Here's why. Every town in England has a war memorial. In fact, they have two. One for the First World War and one for the Second World War. Why? Because that's how significant those two world wars were for England. Okay? So they go through, and what do they see? They see this war memorial. They see an obelisk covered in names. And then Harry suddenly sees, instead of the obelisk covered in names, a statue of three people. A man with untidy hair and glasses, a woman with long hair, kind, pretty face, and a baby boy sitting in his mother's arms. And they're all covered with snow on their heads. Notice, we're not told that there's snow anywhere else. So, Lily is holding little Harry like this. So his body's flat. But we're not told that there's snow there. There's snow on his head. There's snow on Lily's head. And there's snow on James's head. First of all, what's this image of? It's Christmas Eve, folks.
Mary, Joseph, and Jesus.
The Holy Family. I'm not saying it is that literally, obviously, but symbolically, because it's Christmas Eve, that's what it represents. And then you need, the final icing on the cake. Look at the snow on their heads.
Well, there's snow in the pictures.
Yeah, I hate those pictures. Like a nimbus, or in Western language, a halo on each of their heads. The singing grew louder as they make their way to the church. Why? Well, they're getting closer to the church. As they get closer, the music grows louder. It made Harry's throat constrict. It reminded him what? Of Hogwarts. Notice, it doesn't remind him of the Dursleys. It's like the Dursleys don't celebrate Christmas. But they do. Spoiled. It reminded him of Peeves bellowing rude versions of carols. It reminds him of the 12 Christmas trees in the Great Hall. Why? One for each of the 12 days of Christmas. Okay? Dumbledore wearing a bonnet, blah, 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 blah. The gate at the entrance to the graveyard, they go in. And what do they see? A gravestone that says Abbott. What happens? As they make their way deeper and deeper into the graveyard, Every now and then they see the dark. And Hermione says, Harry, here, is it? That is, he's thinking, is it my folks? No, but look. Kendra Dumbledore and Banana. And the words, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Anybody know what that is? Yeah, it's from the Bible. It's Luke 12:34. Hold on, I should have had this pulled up already. There it is. Luke, come on, wake up. Luke 12:34. I don't want that. I want Luke. Few lines before and a few lines after. Christ is talking essentially about don't worry about tomorrow. Worry only about today. Do not seek what you should eat or what you should drink, nor have an anxious mind. That's 12:29. For all these things the nations of the world seek after. Your Father knows that you need these things. Seek the kingdom of God. This is 12:31. And all these things shall be added to you. Do not fear, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell what you have, grow old, a treasure in the heavens that does not fail, where no thief approaches nor moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Okay? Seeing the grave was worse than hearing about it. I cannot help thinking that he and Dumbledore both had deep roots in this graveyard, and that Dumbledore ought to have told him so. They could have come here, Harris. Dumbledore could have explained. Okay? He reads the words. He doesn't understand them. The implication is Harry's never heard them. He's never read them. He's never been to church, more than likely. Okay, so Harry's thinking, well, Dumbledore chose these words. Hermione, are you sure he never? No. Let's keep looking. Hermione, oh, sorry, thought it was. Well, look at this. Harry, there's that mark in the book. And they see a gravestone with the Deathly Hallows. Harry, yeah, cool. It's not what he's concerned about. It says Ignotus. Harry keeps looking. And what are we told? The darkness and the silence seemed to become all of a sudden much deeper. Harry looked around worried, thinking of Dementors, then realized that the carols had finished, that the chatter and flurry of churchgoers were fading away as they made their way back into the square. Notice, in the church, quit singing the carols. What is the effect it has on Harry?
Darkness and silence.
It's like darkness and silence. It's like Dementors coming. So what do the carols do? They're like anti-Dementors. They lift and buoy his spirits. Harry, they're here, right here. And they go to Harry's parents' grave, and we read, James Potter, born 27 March 1960, died 31 October 1981. Okay? So he was only 21 years old. Lily Potter, born 30 January 1960. She's 3 months older than James. Died 31 October. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. All right? Which is from 1 Corinthians 15:26. So put that in some context. 15:24. Then comes the end, when he delivers the kingdom to God the Father, when he puts an end to all rule and authority and power. For he must reign till he has put all enemies under his feet. 15:26. The last enemy that will be destroyed is death. The context is that is in a process when Christ puts everything under his order. But Harry reads those lines and he thinks, well, that's a horrible idea. It's a Death Eater idea. Why is that here? Hermione's like, Harry, don't go there. It's not a Death Eater idea. It doesn't mean defeating death in the way the Death Eaters mean it. It means, living beyond death, living after death. Notice Hermione says, it means you know. What does that mean? She assumes Harry knows. What does Harry know about resurrection, about living? Nothing. That is a totally novel concept for him. When Luna tried to introduce it, it's not like I'll never see her. Harry's like, what? What are you talking about, Luna? But they're not living, thinks Harry. They're gone. The empty words could not disguise the fact that his parents' moldering remains lay beneath snow and stone, indifferent, unknowing. The moldering remains, the dust, the blood, the bone. But how do we know that his parents are not indifferent, unknowing? Well, before that. Hold on, Harry. Hold on. Your father's coming. He'll tell you what to do. And what does James say when he finally comes? He talks in the present tense. Get to the portkey. It'll take years. Tears come. He looks down at the thick snow, hiding from his eyes the place where the last of Lily and James lay, bones now, surely, or dust, not knowing or caring that their living son stood so near, his heart still beating, alive because of their sacrifice, close to wishing at this moment that he was sleeping under the snow with them. Almost like taking us back to the first book when he looks into the mirror of Erised, and what does he see? Himself surrounded by his family. But not himself alive, himself dead. Hermione holds his hand, grips it tightly, and what's Harry doing? Put yourself in his shoes. He's crying uncontrollably, and yet trying to steady himself, trying to regain control. And Hermione puts a Christmas wreath on their grave. Why? Why a wreath? Because it symbolizes infinity, eternity. People wear weddings. They don't wear wedding squares or triangles or stars. One, it'd be uncomfortable. But why else? Because a triangle and a square and a star have a beginning and an end. This doesn't. Okay? Why else? What's in the wedding wreath? What kind of flowers? Christmas roses. They're red and pink. Why? Passion, suffering, sacrifice, love. So they go off to Bathilda Bagshot's house. And I'm going to skip most of what happens. Harry feels the Horcrux. He disappears. Hermione, he sees all the, vision and stuff. The snake tries to get him. They leave. And Hermione has to explain, sorry, broke your wand. Okay? And we get the chapter, The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore. Not as far as I wanted to be, but not nearly as far as I wanted to be. Look at the opening paragraph. The sun is coming up. Okay, what day is it? It's not day after Christmas. It's Christmas morning. Christmas morning. The sun is rising. Pure, colorless vastness of the sky stretched over him. Why is the sky colorless?
Because it's cloudy.
Is it cloudy? Or is it like one of those winter mornings where the sky just looks white? Harry sat down in the tent. Well, back up for a moment. The colorless vastness of the sky stretched over him, indifferent to him and his suffering. What does that mean?
It's going to happen anyway. Life's going to happen.
Okay.
Anyway, no matter
What does it mean that it's indifferent?
Go on no matter what he does or what happens to him.
Keegan?
It's not connected to him at all. It just happens on his own.
Universe doesn't give a damn about Harry. That's what it means. If you're indifferent to somebody, you don't care one way or the other about them. That's what Harry is experiencing about the world. He sat down in the tent entrance, took a deep breath of clean air. It's cold. It's Christmas morning. Simply to be alive, to watch the sun rise over the sparkling, snowy hillside. What's the next word? Ought. Why ought? What does ought mean? It should have. It should have been the greatest treasure on earth, yet he couldn't appreciate it. Why should it have been the greatest treasure on earth? Because I think the narrator wants us to think. This experience should be every time the greatest thing on earth. To simply be alive. And to see what kind of view does Harry have. Think about this for a moment. You're on a hillside. You're looking, and frankly, it's not Scotland, but it's the west of England. And you've all seen pictures of the hills and dales of England, little thatched cottages, 500-year-old churches with their little steeples, and everybody goes, oh, how beautiful. And here the snow is glistening in the sun. This ought to be entirely soul-fulfilling. And for Harry, what is it? It doesn't mean a thing. Without realizing it, he's digging his fingers into his arms. He'd spilled his own blood more times than he could count. He'd lost all the bones in his right arm once. This journey had given him scars to his chest. Rufus Scrimgeour, when he touches him with the wand. And forearm, to join those on his hand and forehead. So, he's got injuries to his chest, his arm, his forearm, his hands, and his head.
I thought the scar on the chest was from the locket. Where it leaves the burn.
Oh, yeah. Didn't think about that one. That too. But he does have a burn mark from Rufus Scrimgeour also. But never until this moment had he felt himself to be fatally weakened, vulnerable, and naked. In other words, how does he feel? Exposed, defenseless, despair. What has he lost? The wand. She had not felt the wand spin like the needle of a compass. He had lost the protection of the twin cores. What are the twin cores? What's the twin? Voldemort's. His wand was only really useful to Harry as long as Voldemort still had his. I don't think it's only talking, however, about these twin cores. I think it's also talking about what Harry's wand is made out of.
When it spun in his hand, that was after Voldemort got Malfoy's wand.
I know.
So it's not only his, it's the other one.
I know. Okay. So his fury at Dumbledore broke over him like lava, scorching him inside, wiping out every other feeling. What does it mean, his fury at Dumbledore? Or was he mad? Out of sheer desperation, they talked themselves into going to Godric's Hollow. Why? Because Dumbledore never told him the truth. And so they keep talking. And Harry says to Hermione, it's okay. I'd be dead if you hadn't, been there to help me. And what do? They read about Dumbledore and Grindelwald. And they read Dumbledore's letter to Grindelwald. Your point about wizard dominance being for the Muggles' own good, this, I think, is the crucial point. We've been given power. Yes, power gives us the right to rule. Magic is might, but it also gives us responsibilities. Okay? You get to the end of that, and Hermione starts to talk, and Harry shakes his head, meaning, shut up. Why? Some inner certainty had crashed down. It was exactly as he'd felt after Ron left. He trusted Dumbledore, believed him the embodiment of goodness and wisdom. Next 3 words. All was ashes. What happened to his image of Dumbledore? Poof. Like a phoenix. Poof. So what needs to happen? It needs to grow again. But what needs to grow again?
Harry's faith.
Harry's faith in Dumbledore, true. What else? The real Dumbledore. Not the God that Harry has made of him. His real understanding of Dumbledore, of the real Dumbledore. Okay? He needs to learn to trust all over again. All right, we'll stop the pickup here, and somehow or other we will actually finish on Tuesday.
Do you think that letter is as dark as